To understand a dementia resident's perspective, you need to thoroughly understand dementia. It's not that because you understand your mother and you have a good relationship that you will then be able to help her in a dementia unit unless you thoroughly understand the variances and all that there is that needs to be known about dementia and how it works. But if you do have a good relationship and your mother trusts you and you understand how dementia works, then in tandem, definitely and absolutely, you will be able to help your mother effectively. Say, for example, with your father, you've brought in his favourite lazy boy chair. Now, don't just plonk it in the middle of the room, for example. You may well think that because he's fit and strong, he can move it. But with direction orientation, he won't have the ability to do that. So that's just one example of understanding the perspective of how a person with dementia thinks, works, and orientates themselves. So when you bring in the chair, rather than just leaving it there and saying, "Oh, Dad, is that right?" and him saying, "Yes, son, fine," and then off you go, what will happen if you do that is that wherever you have left the chair, that is where it will remain. So if your father's lazy boy chair is facing the toilet, it will stay there unless you or someone else comes and moves it and puts it into a suitable position, because the staff won't move it, no one else will move it, they'll just think that's where you want it. So even though the dementia residents are saying, yes, that's fine, and you say, "Oh, do you need any help, Dad, with moving it?" And they say, "No, I'll be good, I'll be fine." They won't be fine because they haven't got the direction orientation ability to be able to know how to maneuver the chair to get it in the right position in the room. So the favourite position often being looking out at the view, or at least in a position where they can get the sunlight when it's a sunny day. So sit there in the room. The best approach with this to work out exactly where to put the chair. Very important, because dementia unit rooms are very small, tiny, inch here, inch there, you've hardly got any space. So you need to make the most of every single piece of area that you've got. Best thing is to just sit in the room with, say, your father and observe how he walks around the room, how much room he needs if he's got a walker or a walking stick, how much space he takes up if he's 6 foot or 5'3". Those, height and weight and build all makes a difference in terms of how much you fill up the room or you don't. So just sort of orientate and see his manoeuvres and what works for him, and where the chair is best suited for him to be able to enjoy the surrounds around the chair. Now, if he prefers to just sit in the armchair and look at the beautiful vista of him on the boat in the Mediterranean, if that's the case, put the chair facing that. Whereas if he'd rather look out at the hills and the view and the trees and get the sunshine, orientate the chair to that. Ask his opinion as well. Of course, he'll be able to give his opinion. He just won't have the orientation to be able to put the chair in the right place. And also you can try different positions and talk it through and orientate him through and say, "Look, Dad, we're placing your armchair here. Now sit in it. Now sit back, relax, put your shoulders back, head back, as if you're about to have a little bit of a snooze, all nice and comfy. Now I want you to look straight ahead and see whether this is the view that you like. Here you've got your lovely boat with you at the helm in the middle. Oh, yes, I love that picture. Okay, so you do that. Then you shift the chair. Now, Dad, we're going to shift the chair. You can get the sunshine here and you can look out onto the view of the hills, and ask him which one he likes. Now, he may have forgotten, of course, the first scene, the Mediterranean boat scene, and now the sun and the outside. He loves both. What to do? Well, you can tell by his animation and body language as to which one he prefers, but really you can just adjust it each time you come and see which one works out in the long run. I mean, if it's a sunny day and sunny weather, chances are he'll like to be by the window to get the sun coming in and look at the view a bit. But if it's winter, cold, dark and dreary, he'd rather look at the Mediterranean with him on the helm of the boat and all the sun shining. So variety is the spice of life, and it's good to just adjust the furniture a little bit in the room so it's not completely static. But just make sure that wherever it's facing, especially the chair, because that's what the resident is sitting in all day if they're not in the lounge, make sure it's facing a vista which is suitable. Now, another example is that some dementia residents who are fit and independent with their walking and standing like standing at the window and looking out, because of course they get more of a view than if they're just sitting. Now, there was one particular resident I worked at. She loved standing at the window half the day. She was a little lady but quite strong, so she could manage it. But the furniture really suited her well where it was placed, because she had a little two-seater. She was a tiny lady, so she had a little two-seater to the right of the window, and she'd stand at the window and she could just place her hand on the arm support of the sofa. It's pretty spongy, and lean herself against the back of the sofa, and it was just like a standing support. You know, she'd lean against the sofa, put her hand on the back of the sofa, and there she was. She'd be able to stand there for hours because she had part support leaning against the sofa, and her forearm support or arm support was also supporting her. So that was a really good feng shui, if you call it that, positioning of the sofa to enable her to have standing support to look outside. Now, interestingly enough with her, she had the most fabulous view, best view of the whole, unit really. Southern Alps vista, the favourite. I mean, sunrise, sunset, she got the lot. All the beautiful white-capped mountains in winter, and it was a glorious view. But actually, and she came from a farm, so in a really rolling hill, northern Canterbury's lots of huge hills and semi-mountains that she farmed. You would have thought that she would have liked that view, but no, not the Southern Alps. She liked to stand up to look down at the cars that were parked in the car yard. Now, you'd think that might be boring, but for her it was best. She loved it. How long that black truck's been there? Is that your car? Who's that lady in that blue Mazda? I mean, she knew all the coming and going of the cars, and that was her interest. And the other thing was the weather. When she stood standing at the window, she could see, and she would announce when the fine spitting had started, because rain on the farm being the big thing. Or if there was a little bit of a breeze, she was the first one to witness it and announce it clearly at that. So everyone's interests are so vastly different. And the main thing is to tap into the residents' interest and get the furniture sorted so they can enjoy their little world in their room. And we need to understand their perspective and their orientations or lack of to be able to get the best fit for them. So I've written about all this in the two books, Residents' Voice and Residents' Rise, both on Amazon, companion books. Thank you for your viewing and all these subscriptions. Oh, it's really good. Thank you so much for the support. And please thank you.